Yeah, this isn't doing anything. If it was the vehicle doing it, it wouldn't have parked here many, many times. It's just, as an interpretation from here, it seems sort of like, and of course in non-duality there's no hose and water, but the feeling as this is like being a hose and then something moving through, yeah? And over time, it's been shown to me that the water really doesn't care about the condition of the hose. It doesn't, and even when this started to become clear to me, my reaction from here was I should try to live up to it, I should really start practicing and trying to meditate a lot, but it said, no, we don't want it. It doesn't want any of that. You're perfectly useful as you are right now, yeah? So it's a hose, because I get a lot of comments, and it's usually about me, when it has nothing to do with me. I'm just delivering a message, or like delivering mail, and I'm not the package that's being delivered. I'm just sharing something, because if the freedom or whatever, or the contentment or the satisfaction or the acceptance, whatever you want to call it, isn't right where you are at all times with no requirement necessary to meet it, it doesn't have real value. It really doesn't. It has to be always available at all times, right where you are, yeah, with no requirement necessary to meet it, because you are it, yeah. The only requirements that come up are on the side of what you're not, basically. And the whole message, in a way, is it's a warning that there may be a looking for what you are from what you're not, and then there's a possibility of seeing what you're not from what you are. That's really the whole point. So what I found, what I was looking for what I am for years and years and years, the first real message was a rude one. It was pointed out to me that I was looking for what I am from what I'm not, yeah? And the only necessary thing wasn't to find what I am or to find an authentic real self or anything like that. It was just seeing what I'm not, yeah? And when I saw what I'm not, all those noble drives and lifetimes of inspiration and effort and thought was just evaporated completely, yeah? Completely. I lost complete interest in looking for myself, yeah? Because I know you can never find what you are. You'd have to be something else. And in this case, the only possibility, and this is just from what's been happening with me, the only possibility when it comes to us is being us. That's it. You can't understand what you are. You can't know what you are. You don't experience what you are. Yeah? You can't study what you are. You can study what you're not. You can get to know what you're not. You can understand what you're not. And you're experiencing what you're not all day. Yeah? That's what an experience is. It's based on what you're not. So when that direction, and that's all it was corrected, then all the interest and attention that was being used to find what cannot be found got dismissed. It was like that preoccupation was, a lot of it was relieved of its duty, so to speak, and then the interest and attention now really in a lot of ways is undirected interest and attention, and that to me is presence. That's what the presence is, in a sense, that you sense is the interest and attention not being sent on mental chores all day. So now what the abidance in the truth is the exact same energy as the obsession with self. It's just where it's placed, yeah? If your interest and attention is a place, it's not yours. If interest and attention is placed in self, it produces agitation and true faith in what's not happening. The same interest and attention put on what you are, rest. That's the abidance in truth. It's the exact same. It's going to manifest effects here by what it's put in. See? So it made sense when I was younger. Yeah, my own self-interest is going to promote the best effects in my life, but it didn't prove to be true. My own self-interest was the worst enemy. And so I'm not a believer in concentration and focus. I'm more a believer in dispersal and relaxed, yeah? You see a whole lot more when the lens isn't focused. Yeah? When you focus on something, necessarily the all area has to be sort of softened out, like you say in photography. But if it's always panoramic, you see a huge amount. You basically see nothing in a sense. Yeah? So I feel really satsangs are warnings, tell you the truth. You know, I feel like, let's say if someone believes they had an awakening experience, all right, great, what happens the next day? The mental state, or maybe in 10 minutes, the mental state arises and claims to be the one who had the experience. And then it can go to such an absurd length, then that seeming person can believe they've lost awakening because they believe they gained awakening. Yeah? If you don't have it, you can't lose it. If you don't own it, you can't be disowned from it. Yes? There's a logic in this that's seamless. It is beautiful. It's inclusive. It's a win-win. It's like a space of acceptance. Yeah? And you've realized, for a lot of people, I'm sure there's true believers, but for a lot of people, spirituality is like a drug. They're just trying to get out of how they feel. You know, they like it to be eternal, where the drug addict knows it's only going to be 5 minutes. But at least the drug addict gets an immediate hit. Some people are waiting for lifetimes. I think spirituality is like one of the stupidest addicts I've ever seen, because you're really not getting that much. And you're paying a whole lot of money. You're going and I don't believe, why would you want to sign up for an intensive? You already have signed up for an intensive this life. I would say a Thursday in Toronto is pretty intense. Toronto is, you're not paid. And a retreat from what? I went on a retreat once. I went on a lot of them, actually. I went on a retreat at a facility where I live. We call it the upper middle way. It's high-end Buddhism. They have eagle claw bathtubs and sumptuous three meals a day, you know? And so it was a silent one, but you could talk to the teacher in the morning, or they'd talk to you. And so I was into it, and people were going to be there from 2 weeks to 3 months. Right? It all started at the same time, but people were going to stay longer or not. And so I was on maybe my 12th day, and so and then you would do a lot of walking meditation, because it's very difficult to sit 13 hours a day. I swear. First you go in the first day, everyone has their little minimalistic Zen pillow. After about 5 days, they have a mountain of fucking cushions to try to save the left cheek. Yeah, trying to lift it up. And then some people would say, fuck it, and they just lay down. And you're just wishing you would have had the balls to do that. But yeah, I've gotta, it's insane. So you're doing a lot of walking meditation. So I was walking around, like it looked like two-legged cows grazing, walking very slowly. So I go to the place where they have the food at 6 o'clock. I get there a little early. And I walk in, and what's on the big buffet thing is ice cream. First time, yeah? So I sit down, and I watch everyone come in. Now, some people have 12 days of trying to produce mental and emotional peace. And they come in, they have the loving gaze, and then they see the ice cream, and you can see the mind go like this. Should I get the ice cream right away? I can't wait. I may not get enough. Some people forego the whole meal. They just get the ice cream. The 12 days were out like that. 1 minute. 1 minute of a viewing of an ice cream, the 12 days of practice is negated. Give me a break. What does it tell you? Fucking get off the bus. There's gotta. So this message for me is captured by one of the great statements to me of Ramana Maharshi, and I really like Hoang Po, an old Zen master. But in Maharaji, if you read a lot of stuff that was written about his teachings, you'll see this statement in a lot of it, and it's usually characterized as the problem or the greatest mystery. And it says it very clearly. It says there's a presupposing. And where is the presupposing? It's in the mental states, yeah? there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, let's say the body. So there's animation that's animating the body, but then the mental state weds the animation to the body. And it's the middle person, and it claims to be both in a sense, yes? So now the mental state is that which is aware, and it's also the body that it's aware of in a sense, yeah? So suddenly there's a presupposing, and the word presupposing is perfect because there's an assuming or a supposing right now that you're a non-existent thing, but when it is supposed, it says it's presupposed. So you feel like you've always been this body. Yeah? So you feel historical. So there's a presupposing of a non-existent thing, and then what? And then the non-existent thing wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. You see it? The glitch? It's all there. There's a presupposing of what you're not. It's taken to be what you are. And now what you are, masquerading as what you're not, starts looking for salvation. But not from what you are, because there's no salvation from what you are. It's inherent freedom. There's no boundness, so there's no salvation from the boundness. But you want salvation for what you're not. When the salvation is based on from what you're not, and you're always saved from that. Because what you're not is appearing to what you are. It is not, there's not two of us. Yeah? There's only what we are, and it's masquerading as what it's not in time. So it needs time to seem to be something that it isn't. Without time, this would never have taken off. Yeah? Time is the main ingredient of the heist in a way. So just with the word pre, it's inferring time. So that which comes after, it's an activity. You can see it. That which comes after implies to be before. That's the heist. And as soon as it sets itself up, which is very, very fast in time, and this is what I found, you're not going to outgun this gunslinger with a process. It's the quickest process of all. Whatever process you do, quote unquote, to get out of it, it claims to be the doer of that process. So you never get out of it. By all the escape plans actually further the seeming bondage. And it doesn't work. It's not going to work the 300th attempt because you're still going to be there. And in this case, you're not here to get it. So there's a presupposing a non-existent thing that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. And that's just in a spiritual term. It wants to get a pair of pants for a non-existent thing. It wants to get a date for a non-existent thing. It wants to get a sandwich for a non-existent thing. It wants to get a coffee for a non-existent thing. It wants to get a nice chair with a cushion on it. It does it all day. We're in service to the body all freaking day, basically. Yeah? So there's this presupposing, and it says, all right, if that's seemingly in place, what happens? Well, then your spiritual practices themselves will be reinforcing the non-existent thing. How can they destroy it? And it's an open-ended question. So if the spiritual practices themselves that we believe are going to get us out of that which we want to escape, or it's actually reinforcing the idea of being in it, yeah? How can they destroy it? So that which is reinforcing it, how can it tear it down? Now, we believe, we start at the point of this is going to tear it down. We don't see the movement of its reinforcing it. Yeah. So we're living in a false pretense that I'm doing all this shit to have this obstruction torn down. But in fact, all of that activity could be being used to reinforce the obstruction. It's just a shoe. If you put it on and it fits, wear it. This is what satsang is. Satsang is like a spiritual shoe store. You put out a couple of statements, and if you put your little foot, your experience in there, and it resonates, wear the freaking shoe. You know, all this fucking spiritual hiking boots are put aside. It's not about fucking thought and effort anymore. It's about a recognition Yeah, because you are that which precedes the presupposing. The presupposing can never be pre-you. It can never presuppose itself before what you are, ever. You'll catch it 35 times, and you catch it thousands of times. It's the same situation. It can only imply it's before. It can only assume it's before. It can only reinforce it's before. It can never produce the goods. That's the beauty of the message. The message is totally disarming. It's not a call to arms. It has nothing to do with, all right, grip your loins and go ahead. No, it's about fucking let it hit you. See if it fits. If it doesn't fit, go ahead and do whatever you're doing. You're going to get out of here anyway because you're not in here. So it may take more time because you'll have to dream yourself out of the dreaming. And as you do, the dream will get happier. So this isn't like, yes or no. It's like, hey, more time, less time, basically. Yeah. But the fact is, let's say people say, like you said, oh, when was the day or whatever, the moment. Okay, so in the story of Paul, oh, it looked like it happened, let's say. Yeah. Yeah. So an awakening happened, or an intervention, or an epiphany, whatever you want to call it. But one of the qualities of the epiphany is that when it dawns on you, it tells you it's always been this way. So it already negated the story that something happened. Because when it happens, it tells you it's always been this way. So it's in the story, it seems like yes, 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 and then something finally happened. But when that thing finally seems to happen, it tells you it's always been so. So your story is going to get negated either before or after the story. I would think rather before. Save yourself a lot of time. I mean, you're going to seemingly be here, but this will travel later. This is incapable of traveling later. It isn't. It's incapable of it. It can't sustain it. Yeah? It can be great on one day or a couple of hours, but it can't sustain it. It can't. Yeah? The tide of time just knocks down all its sandcastles. It can get the most perfect shape, and for that minute, 9 o'clock, I feel fucking great, but 9:01 shows up. And situations change, and volatility changes, and then you're building the castle again, and you get that moment, and then, and what are you going to build? A giant dike? It's not going to work, So the point is, see the failedness of the system. If you hear it, if the shoe fits, wear it. And then suddenly, instead of constantly looking for what you are from what you're not, you will see what you're not from what you are. The seeing what you're not from what you are is based on timelessness. The looking for what you are from what you're not is all time. All time. But the seeing of what you're not from what you are is based timeless. That's the difference. And you'll have a sense of it. You'll have a tactile sense. You'll have a sense of what that feels like, a horizontal, constant horizontal download, and let's say a vertical download. The vertical download's inserting constantly in the whole horizontal story. At all times, with no requirement necessary. And then you'll lose interest in fulfilling any requirements. And what floods in, maybe immediately, maybe eventually, is acceptance. And I'll tell you, you may have accepted a lot of shit, but there's a deep non-acceptance of what you're not. There really is. We have given it so much power that we believe that if I'm not the doer, I'll end up on a couch for 3 days and never do a fucking thing. No, you're giving it way too much relevance. There's never been a doer, personal doer, and everything seemed to have fucking happened already. This is the dilemma with the mental logic. The mental logic cannot leave verbs alone. It always has to attach a noun on them. So when it sees doing, it says there's got to be a doer. When there's seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, it narrates it as there's a seer, a hearer, a feeler, a taster, and a toucher. That's what it does. It's like the blood system. It's not going to stop. What will happen is there'll be a loss of interest in it. Yeah? It's that simple. And you can't get out of it through interest, because that would be an interest in wanting to lose interest. Just like in recovery, we run into an incredible dilemma, very, very underappreciated, and which says, hey, first, in this game of life, you've got to quit playing God. Yeah? Why? Because it doesn't work. Okay, so let's say the playing God is the selfing, and so, okay, the selfing claims to be the hearer of that message. All right, I got to quit playing God. It sounds like an order. So now that which is playing God tries to quit playing God. That's going to go on ad infinitum, yes? Because every time it tries to quit playing God, that's playing God. It can't get out of it. Haven't you seen it yet? I'm sure there's like 500 years of spiritual shit in this room, and you're here tonight. I guess it hasn't worked. So, whatever, you know. So, to me, it's all direction. It's all direction. This is not a dissertation, it's an invitation. It can be repeated quite a lot, yeah, but it doesn't need to be expounded on. It's a simple delivery, and then I have faith in mind. The thing is, you have to realize that I cannot talk to Tanya about this. I've got to talk to this about Tanya. If I keep talking to Tanya about this, it never goes anywhere. But if I talk to that which is about Tanya, it goes somewhere. Yeah, and this is the dilemma I feel. There's a lot of people talking to people. That's the mistake. Yeah. There was supposedly a story of Ramana. I don't know if it's true or not, so don't crucify me on comments somewhere if it's not. But he said some people that had been with him for many years were sitting around talking, and they were asking themselves, do you think we could start teaching this? And then he came in and they asked him, they said, Ramana, do you think we can start teaching this? And he said, yeah, all of you can teach, but I don't recommend it. So they were like, what? And they go, why not? And he says, well, compassion. And they go, what? And he goes, he says, listen, you're going to be speaking at a meeting, you're going to feel compassion, and you're going to dilute the message. Yes. You'll try to accommodate what's receiving the message instead of fucking putting it on a diet of nothing for maybe 8 or 9 years, and you'll finally realize that nothing's everything. But if you slip a little something in there, it's like back to square zero again. Because then you think the something had something to do with arriving at nothing, when it doesn't. Just nothing, 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 nothing. And after a while, it's going to dawn on you, that's everything. Yeah? You are what you're looking for, finally. The seeker is the sought. And then find out what you're drawn to after that. There's no rhyme or rhythm. You know, like they used to look at a saint, and then people would think, all right, I'm going to do exactly what the saint does, hopefully to lead to where the saint is. But it's the saint never arrived there through its behavior. Its behavior and expression of where it already is. It's not a vehicle to get to where he is. It's an expression from where he is. So you make a path out of an expression. When that which is expressing isn't contacted by path. It is not a path of illumination. It will illuminate whatever path you're on, whatever seed assignment you have, but the seed assignment isn't a path to illumination. The illumination is always available at all times. And it's not all fireworks, you know. You'll realize why most people I feel are really trying not to be awake all day. It's like driving them crazy because they're up at 3 a.m, You know, what people would pray like, please let me stop thinking at 11 p.m. and maybe start at 8 a.m. Give me 9 hours of good sleep. You're up at 2 in the morning thinking, you know, there's like, you have no fucking power over it, yes? But because there's a presupposing that you're the thinker, there's an idea of that I should have some power over that which comes after me. But thinking does not come after you. Yeah, you're not the thinker. You're a thought. So I heard this, it's like an unspoken yes. Did it have legs? No. I had to use like, what do you call, prothesis, read a couple of books, go see, you know, Ramesh Balsekar, go to Ramana's place, need a little crutches here and there. But there's a time where you don't fucking venerate the crutch. You drop it, yeah? And now you're your own authority. You don't follow a drum set, you follow the own drum, yeah? And you see how it expresses. And you point out, hopefully, because I'm tired of having people talking to me as if I'm the message. I'm fucking not. I have absolutely no interest in the message. I read Yankee blogs and go to thrift stores. And the biggest thing I'm looking forward to isn't enlightenment, it's a good cup of coffee. It's a latte. Yeah? I have no interest in this topic whatsoever, except being it. So see it, the movement of the mental states, all of them, the system itself presupposes us as a body. So when you're thought about, what are you thought about as? A body, yeah? When you're remembered, when there's memories of you, how are you pictured in the memories? As a body, yes? And why do perceptions constantly reinforce that there's things and things alone, yeah? So every time the interest and attention is up into the mental processes, it's in the constant narration barrage that you're a thing. Yeah? So what happens? We come here, let's say for the weekend, and we're going to chant, we're not a body all weekend. But the only thing that would do that would be a body. The only thing that wants to get out of a body is the body idea. Spirit has no drive to get out of the body. The body wants to get out of the body experience, but as a body. That's the freaking dilemma. That's the little Chinese thumb thing you can't get out of. So how can you get out of what you've never been in, realizing you've never been in it? That's the quote-unquote experience of being out of it. The experience of being out of it isn't that you successfully escaped anywhere. It's that you realize you were never in it. It looks like it looks like he's out of self, but not as a heroic fucking Homeristic little odyssey. It's a simple recognition. That's all. You realize you can never be out of a freaking moment, so there's no effort to look like you're in the moment. Yeah? And then you also realize you can't be what you're not, so there's no drive to try to not be what you're not. You let it be what it is, which is, it isn't you. It's an activity. Yeah? So you get what you look like you've gotten what people are trying to strive for, but there was no striving involved. And then the goal that you seem to have arrived at, you've always been, and there's no need for any thought or effort to maintain it because it maintains itself. Yeah? And then if you want to meditate for 5 days, meditate. It isn't you. And if you don't want to meditate, don't meditate. It isn't you. So those two things. The message is never directed to you, first of all, because it won't go anywhere. The second thing is, it's truly about, there is a fundamental activity going on we're not noticing that puts us in a position for looking for what we are from what we're not. That's why it can never be found. That's why it can go on for freaking lifetimes, yeah? It's just a simple correction of something that never really happened. Yeah? As soon as you hear it, you realize it's always been this way. And so suddenly now it's corrected, so you're not looking for what you are from what you're not. Everything's clear. You're not spending any time trying to find what you can't find. Yeah? And therefore, you have that sense of timelessness that you could only see from the other end as an experience that would be very infrequent. Yeah? And in timelessness, that which is timeless never gets outgunned by a process in time. So you see it. Maybe it'll take you 50 examples to see the heist, maybe one example, it doesn't matter. But sooner or later, it'll be like the 100 monkey syndrome. Boom, mind gets it. Mind goes bing, yeah. And then the stock, 51% of the stock goes over to that, and now you're in the abidance with truth. Yeah. The agitation doesn't have, it's a minority vote now. It doesn't grab your attention and interest to send it on another fucking goose chase in the past and the future. You're available at all times. You never get gypped, ever. You're there sleeping, you're there living, you're there. You may not even like it. Your head doesn't like it, really. The head isn't happy. I swear. A few years ago, for years, it kept hearing nothing, but it was thinking, there's something. It was still holding out, really. It was still holding, all right, I'll put up with another fucking meeting. I know I'm going to get something. No, then about 2 or 3 years, maybe 8 years ago, it dawned on it, I'll never fucking get anything. So sometimes it's quite reluctant to arrive. It's like a mule or a donkey. It doesn't want to go. Because it's totally absent when this is occurring. All the pains and the stresses or anything that I could have been concerned with all day, or maybe 30 days, is evaporated in no time. And after tons of those experiences, it tells you something. Hey, if something can disappear that quick, it mustn't have been there to begin with. Exactly. Yeah. So as Huang Po says, hey, listen, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Why not just get it? You know? It's not, see, he's not talking to you. Like Huang Po is in the room and going, hey, Paul, listen to me. You can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Oh, where did I put that Buddha? I can't use the Buddha anymore to seek the Buddha. No, he's talking to the Buddha about Paul. He's saying, hey, Buddha, you can't use yourself to find yourself. How long does it take for the Buddha to get that? No time whatsoever. If you go through Paul, it may take fucking lifetimes. So we're just cutting out the middleman, the middle person, and let's get direct, yes? You're not going to find what you are from what you're not. What you're not isn't going to get qualified to suddenly become what it is. It isn't, yeah? It loves to want to become. It wants to become what it is all fucking day. It never wants to be what it is. It loves the process of becoming what it is. Like it never wants just to be what it is. Then the spiritual addiction comes out. Then you really see it. And it's just like shooting coke. Just like it. It's just more gratified or whatever. I think a cocaine addict is much smarter, really. At least he gets a big rush. You're paying $2,000 at a retreat. Well, I ended up paying $2,000 too. So, you see it? Yeah. Any questions?
You're not serious when you say you the cocaine addict is more smarter, are you?
I'm just having fun.
Okay.
Don't take anything I said.
Yeah.
Take the sense.
Sure.
Take the sense of it, not the particular words.
Okay.
Yeah? Get the flavor of it. It's not the packaging. The packaging, the words are a carrier. Getting the words, you miss the boat, really. Yeah? Yeah. This doesn't have to be understood. It has to be received. That's all. Everything else does it on its own. The problem is getting through the Death Star's defense, because it's neutering every fucking message it comes up against. Yeah, you gotta. It's like that spiritual sperm thing. You know, you release thousands of sperm with the hopes that one gets to the big egg of mind, and if that one sperm makes it impregnates the mind, and the mind conceives of a possibility. Hey, I may not be that. And that's that, really. And I have faith in it. I don't think you need a huge amount of information. You just need one delivery of the message. So you deliver the message thousands of times with the hopes that one gets through. If one gets through, and if it's the time and the place, it will germinate, yes? And hopefully, as a result here, this will travel later. And then in a humble understanding, it will realize that's all I ever wanted, basically. I gave it a lot of names, but basically, if I was content and satisfied, most of my seeking would just be dismissed. And you would have a new word, not enlightenment or awakening, but enough. You'd have enough, yeah? Enough reading, enough this, enough that, enough, yeah? Get on with living. You only have quarter of two questions for the whole week, whole weekend, so be wise.
It is simple, but it's not easy.
To who?
Oh well.
There you go. As soon as there's a who, that's why it's not easy.
But how do you get it out the who?
You don't. You just realize you're not in the who. It's like the idea of how do I let go? Just see you're not that which holds on much quicker. Letting go is a big deal, but it's premised on the fact that there's a holding on. I don't believe there's anyone holding on. So go there, yeah? Instead of responding or reacting to the second link, go to the first link. The first link, if seen, doesn't beget a second link. A second link trying to undo the first link is a third link. Yes? So the more you want to get out of the chain builds longer and longer. But if you see the first link before it, it doesn't beget a second link. Yeah? It appears to be a second link, but there's no gold in it. Yeah? It looks like a necklace, but there's no gold in it. Yeah.
But you may be stuck at the first link.
Hmm?
But you may be stuck at the first link.
For there to be a stuck on the first link, there's got to be a who that's stuck.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And then the who wants to get unstuck. That's the third link. And then the who gets unstuck. That's the fourth link, only to get stuck again. That's the fifth link. And then usually there'll be a stuck about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 links. And maybe you get 10 minutes of unstuck with 30 more links of stuck. And then you see, hey, there's a couple of nuggets and most of it's all fucking iron, the necklace, yeah? You have maybe a glittery little thing here and here, but most of it is made up. All the weight is the absence of the relief, yeah? Yeah. Watch it, see it. It's a robbery. It's a heist that never happened. It's a heist in time. It happens. The word pre is all time, obviously. So something that's supposed now is presupposed, is inferred to be before the supposing in time. Yeah, that's the heist. So that which comes after implies that it's before. So there's a switcheroo very quickly, and suddenly that which comes after, which is the idea of you as a person, as a doer, as a thinker, as a haver, as a loser, now suddenly becomes the before with nothing else before it. So now knowing God is this direction. The knowing God, the emphasis is on the knower of God. Yeah? The emphasis on the enlightenment is that it's going to be a someone that's enlightened. Everything this way emphasizes this. This doesn't emphasize this. This sees this. Yeah? And this breaks the imaginary chain. You're not going to break the imaginary chain in the links of the chain. You see it before. The freedom is prior to the bondage. It's not an effect of something occurring after the bondage. The freedom is before the bondage, and you see there was no one to be bound. This whole place is based on seemingly so. It's appearing to us as being true or not. That's what's happening all day. We're dreaming. Not this. This is not dreaming. This is saying it's dreaming at night. This is dreamt. Yeah? So the dreamt hears the message. Hey, we're all the dreaming. The message to be the dreaming is to the dreaming, not to the dreamt. But the dreamt has its fucking huge mental mitt, catches the fly ball, and goes, oh, I should have 50 fucking Cadillacs and Vestal Virgins and great joints. You know, if I'm the dreaming, I should have tons of money and everything should go my way. So it distorts the whole point where the dreaming is in total acceptance of the dreaming. The dreamt isn't. The dreamt is in defiance. The dreamt is always at odds with what's happening. What isn't at odds, or it wouldn't be fucking coming to be, or seemingly appearing to be. It's all a different, it's seeing, it's all seeing, but seeing from that which comes after turns into a form of looking called self-centeredness. That's the blindness to what you are. So you're looking for what you are with blind eyes. But before, that's seeing. So they're seeing and then they're seeing, but here, when the seeing seems to be issuing from the after, playing the role of before, is looking. It is not seeing, it's bastardized seeing in the mental narration. Now it's called looking, and it's self-centered. So you see everything as how it pertains to you, the you that you're not. How well is that going to work out? Not that well. You're off. It's like the first step. If you're off like 1/80th of an inch, it doesn't mean much. But if you add 800 steps, 8,800 million steps based on that, it's going to be way, way off as it progresses in time. That's what's happening. This is all about seeing what you're not. Apply the seeing in the right direction. Stop trying to turn the seeing on the seeing. Just see what you're not, and then you'll find out what you are. You'll find out what you are when you recognize you're not looking from what you're not. But if you keep looking for it from what you're not, you're going to find out a lot of shit, but you're never going to find that out. Yeah? So you'll know that you're fucked, but you're still fucked. What good is that knowledge? It's like being a professor of holes and you keep falling in holes. What's the point of all that knowledge? So this message just tries to point out that there's only one possibility regarding what you are, and that's being it. And I humbly say we're at it, doing it right now. We're not doing it, we are it right now. We just don't think so. You're not going to be bliss all day. If you are, you better get attendance, because you're not going to fucking make it in Toronto trying to take the train line. Oh, get off. What's off? No, you're going to fucking need help. Yeah? No, this is about being awake to being awake. Everyone is inherently awake, but here in time you can seem not to be awake, or you can seem to be awake. Yeah? But the fact is the fact. You're awake. You better wait for that. That's it. You only have. But you can buy a question from someone else. You can barter questions. Some of these folks haven't asked a question in years, so they have a lot. They have take Tanya's. She's got about 40 questions over the years she could ask.
You're a good spokesman. Questions.
I do see that we are different ones, but then not how. So it seems to me that there's nothing we can do. It's something that grace might bring it to you or might not. So what?
Well, thank God, grace will never bring it to you. That's for sure. It won't.
Well, I couldn't come up with it.
Yeah, I know. It's the language, but you have to see. The language is the trendsetter. It's what keeps reestablishing that which isn't so.
But everything is a trap, though.
No, it isn't, because you precede it all. It can be or it cannot be. That's the beauty of it. That which precedes has a lot more to say than that which comes after. So big mind is dreaming. So if mind could seem to dream itself out as dream through a telephone book. It can do it any way it wants, yeah? It can. That's why there's a beautiful statement in the Course to me that brings a lot of ease and comfort, which says, hey, listen, you and I are the dreaming of the dreaming, or they say the dream, but I don't like nouns. Yeah, sounds like there's a thing called a dream. I don't believe there's a dream. Yeah, I don't believe anything ever happened here. I think everything's happening, but nothing ever culminates into a happening. It says everything's happening. So, all right. So you and I are the dreaming of the dream, and we're going to dream ourselves out of the dream. So let's say satsang as a certain vehicle. You could see it that way, which is pretty cool. So we're going to dream ourselves out of the dream, and as we do, the dream will get happier. Yeah? Doesn't mean eternal happiness. The dream's going to end, but as it is, it's going to be happier. And in this experience, I'd have to grudgingly admit that's been true. Yeah, without much effort or thought from the dreamp's point of view. It just seems that things have become easier to travel through without any thought or effort. Yeah, almost as if it's a byproduct that I have nothing to do with it except expressing it. Yeah, I'm definitely not cause. I'm more effect. Yeah, as this. Yeah. And that's a nice seat to sit on in the vehicle, not thinking you're the driver, but that which is driven, so to speak. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't share, if this was a business thing, this would be a bad choice as a business, because I am really meant to be obsolete, seriously. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a long-lasting job. I'm just like a mailman. And hopefully my route will keep dwindling where I don't have to fucking send any letters. Yeah? Yeah. I wish I could, say sign up for a retreat. But I wouldn't be there. I'm not going on a fucking retreat. You can call it a vacation, I'd go. And they're mostly like vacations. I don't see any retreats in Newark, New Jersey. Or Hoboken. It's always Costa Rica and fucking massages and kayaking. That sounds like a freaking vacation to me. Maybe you throw in an hour of meditation, so you validate. Oh yes, I've been on a spiritual retreat. You got a great fucking tan. A lot of tanning, hours of tanning. So I don't know. There's nothing wrong with retreats. There's nothing right with them. But I like to fuck with them because I feel like if you've been listening to me, and if you were someone who's organized and you had like a spiritual budget like 6 years ago where you'd save money for one retreat or maybe two, and maybe 20 books and DVDs. And if I've saved you any money, I'd like you to kick down like a 10% tithing of how much money I've saved. Yeah, it would really help my life go a lot easier. I don't think that's wrong, is it? If I save you $20,000 after the last 5 years, maybe 5,000. I'm serious. I had a lady call me up on Skype. $1 million she had spent. She had in this kind of pursuit. $1 million, she said. She was staying up all night watching videos, 13 hours, and I only had 2 sessions with her, which was great. I said maybe 1, but she came back the next week, and then I never heard from her. So I hope it sort of helped her, yeah. Because it was, I think, humbly, I'm going to get into opinions now. I think spirituality should be regulated like marijuana. I do. I think there should be a committee that you have to send your retreat applications in. And if they've seen you've been on 30 retreats, they should say, no more retreats for you. You know what I mean? There should be some kind of governing body to give some freaking advice to the addicts. I'm really serious about that. People are spending tons of money. I guess everything's fine, but in the relative little picture of it, I think people should have some responsibility and say, listen, you don't have to come back anymore. And I mean it. Like some of our videos now, I go, hey, this is about nothing. And I really mean fucking nothing. Yeah, just get it clear. Because if something didn't work after 30, the 31st one's not going to do it. Serious. Maybe you go there for friends, and that's fine. But what you think you're going there for and what the mind, the mental activity is thinking you're going there for is different. And you better realize that companion's going with you. It is. It's going with you. It's going to be claiming whatever you're bringing attention to it through your activities. It is. It's going to make an effort to claim it. Yeah? And there's no rarefied place that's going to make that neutered or immune. It's going to be doing it in a 5,000-year-old temple. It's going to be doing it in fucking Toronto. That's its activity, yeah? It doesn't have a life, so it claims one. Yeah, so.
That's depressing.
Hmm?
That's depressing.
To who, though? See, if you hear it the right way, it's fucking incredibly liberating. Yeah?
And to the one who has been to 10 retreats.
See, exactly. That's the rude awakening. See, everyone wants to have the nice awakening, but it's usually preceded by a rude awakening. The rude awakening is, you're never going to get it. These people that keep giving you good news, they should deliver the bad news first. That's why we have the kirtan first, yeah? Everyone feels really great, then I get up and I go, here's the bad news. Because you're not going to be here to get it. It may not make what you're not what you think it's going to make what you're not. You still may be having bad habits. You may step on people's toes. People may resent you. Yeah, you may be seen as an asshole to many people. A lot of shit. You're not getting a get out of jail free card unless you fool some people and make them your devotees. I'm getting very rude now. I'm in the business. I'm just talking about it. I don't like what I see. I really don't, in some respects. Yeah. So, hey, I hope you guys come back tomorrow. It's really weird to soil your own nest, but I don't know. Beat the hand that feeds you, to bite the hand that feeds you, but I get a certain joy out of it. Because I know I'm taken care of. That's what's so beautiful about it. And we're not that popular and very disorganized, so I don't have an inch, any bit of compassion for you as a person. I don't right now, not in this venue. Maybe in AA or something, but here, the greatest help is no help. Yeah, none. A constant diet of no help. Yeah. So, that's that, eh? Yeah, all right. Well, we can sit quietly for a while, but nah. It's not. I like it. Then when this becomes obvious, you can go into such a great depth with just one stanza of a song. You know, stuff that you would have to have worked up to for hours of strenuous purification and practice is right at your fingertips. But you let it pass like every other fucking ship. Yeah, you don't get on any of them. You do not become a passenger in a freaking experience. Just let it go, because when everything goes, it emphasizes what's always there. That to me is the sense, yeah? Things come, exquisite. Yeah. So, I don't think I'm going to post this one. I may be called up to my own board, the board of non-dual teachers. We want to talk to you, Mr. Hedderman. We're not liking what's happening. You're misleading people. You're causing our finances to go down. So.
What about time? Time, the mental state using time.
Time is unbelievable. But you really have to see, once you talk about it as a topic, you really miss the real influence of it. Yeah, it's like a dry current, like in a big current in the ocean. It's like a dry one. If you watch everyone's driving, it's all driven by time, yeah? The way people drive, everything. Time is the greatest influence, the unseen greatest influence here. Really, it is. It's the two planks of the dreaming, obviously, is space and time. Yeah, space for things to appear and time to see them. You know, so time is you'd have to have but hopefully you get a sense of it. When you start getting a sense of its influence, it's like it explains a lot, because time is the ingredient in all the magic trick. All the magic tricks are just one magic trick, and its basis is time. Yeah, there is no self without time, and there's no time without self. Like when there was a baby and there was no sense of self, that baby didn't have any idea of time whatsoever. Yeah, it arises with the arising of self. Yes. So because self has to be remembered, yeah? To feel like you're what you're not, it has to be remembered. It can't generate a feeling that you could identify with right now. It generates it by remembering it, and then remembering it in the future, which we call worry. That's what it does. So the selfing reinforces the idea of self. So you remember yourself as a body in the past. You're worrying about yourself in the body of the future. So its idea of the I am is I was, I will be, therefore I am. Yeah? It doesn't have an I am, which is the onness. It arrives and mimics the I am by I was, I will be, therefore I am. So it's a logical formula. And when you're in the formula, if you're in that system of logic, it makes complete sense. If you see the system of logic, it's insane. Totally fucking insane. Yeah? But it is, I was Paul. Yeah? Here's all these pictures, all these bridges of, oh, that thing I have no looking like. Oh, that was me when I was 4, whatever. And then there's all these imaginary bridges to Madison County. Paul, Paul. So I was Paul, I will be Paul, therefore I am Paul. So now the after becomes the before. Yeah? So now you become the Alpha Omega. Yeah. So there is something prior to the whole machination.
So, but when Ramana spoke of I am, was it just the being?
Yes.
Right? That's
Yes.
what you're remembering. When you say I am, it's
No, you don't remember I am, because
You
I
just
am is
be.
always available.
So
Exactly.
you just be.
See, you have to remember something that seems to be gone. You don't have to remember something that's here.
All this
Yes?
all this thing.
So that which is always here isn't approached by remembering. You remember something that doesn't seem to be here now. That isn't the case? Yeah, that's what remembering is. Something's not here, so I remember something being here, but it's not here. If it was here, you'd be meeting it, but as what you are, you're being it. You can't meet it here because you are here. You are the here that you'd like to use to meet it in. You are that, yeah? That which comes after does not defeat that which is before. That which comes after doesn't make that which is before. That which before, that which is behind the camera can never be attained by that which is in front of the camera. But that which is in front of the camera is saying it's behind the camera. That's the freaking dilemma. So now seeing is claimed to imply the seer. Now every action that happens through this thing, like even farting and stuff, you think you farted. When there was just gas had to come out of your lower extremities because the pressure was building, but as soon as it happens, hey, I farted. And a lot of other people say, yeah, you farted. Yeah? So it's constantly a huge fucking conspiracy to keep implying this doer all freaking day. And there has not been a precedent set based on any court case yet of non-duality. You're not going to go to a murder trial and say, there was no one. I didn't kill, there's no Paul. You'll be in fucking jail for 40 years. Maybe someday they will, but right now, the body reinforcement is so huge here, yeah, that every action that comes through, thoughts, they don't pin it on any ownership yet, but an action gets pinned on an owner, yes? You got to see where we're at here. We're in a huge agreement, yeah? Have you ever read the Course in Miracles?
I have not all through,
They're
but
very
yes,
good. It's
yes.
a very good description of dreaming. And there's segments that I believe, I haven't read the whole thing myself,
I read the whole thing.
but there's segments that are very clear describing what you're not. And if you hear it from what you are, it may really hit you in the right place. And it will be, for me, when there's a recognition of what you're not, there's an avalanche of information downloads. Like to me, it happened when I was about one of the free samples was about my 9th year of sobriety in recovery, and we have a text in recovery, and I used to lead a workshop on this chapter called How It Works. And I read this sentence thousands of times, and people here have heard me use it thousands of times. There's a beautiful sentence that says, all right, being convinced, which means the present tense condition. It doesn't say you were convinced or you're going to be. It's being convinced right now that what? That self, this feeling of being the doer, the thinker, the haver, that self manifesting in various ways is what has defeated us. So he's attempting to name that dilemma of or the cause of fear and restlessness and shit is that as a foreign element, yeah. So and we're the us. So it says being convinced that self has defeated us, and it says okay, if you're convinced of that, we're going to look at self's common manifestations, not your manifestations, self manifestations. And the first one is resentments and fears and this and that. So if you follow the logic, they're telling you to look at or do an inventory of self's expressions through you, not your freaking expressions. But because the identification as the self is in place, when these expressions from a foreign element come through you, when they come through you, you claim them to be yours. So now you tell a huge story about my resentments, my fears, my harming people in the pursuit of what I want, and you're believing it's leading you to freedom, but that leading you to freedom is still reinforcing the inherent bondage, the seeming bondage, yeah? So while you're working towards getting out, you're sowing the seeds of being more and more in. And it goes back to that same thing. The selfing is in the act of being identified as a self. Yeah? It's not like the verb of it is the act of being identified, and then there's a noun called self. The whole thing is a verb. The act of being identified as a self. So when the attention and interest, which is like a cow going to a familiar trough, when the attention interest goes up into the mental processes, it catches them at all times in the act of being identified as a self. The mental processes are in the act of being identified as a self. So when you're attending them, when you're interested in them, it's quite easy to picture yourself as what they're inferring, assuming, implying, and supposing, and you're pictured as the body. Yeah? And suddenly, the animation is mixed. There's like a weird wedding with the fucking chaplain as the mental state. And so now the animating principle and the body get wed, and now you, this, is now crowned me, which is the adding of being the doer, the seer, the feeler, the taster, and the toucher. Yeah? Now the me is the king of the fucking mental kingdom. It's thought about all fucking day. It's remembered all day. It's worried about all day. And it's worshipped. It's the fucking religion of the freaking place. If you see it, there's a magic that occurs. Because the one thing it's constantly trying to deaden is the seeing. It wants the before to be totally forgotten, because that's where the power lies. The power doesn't come after, it's before. Because the power that we are or represent is being misdirected, basically. It really is. I mean, we're miracle workers. We're making shit out of nothing every day. I mean, I can ruin tonight by thinking of next week. That's powerful. Yeah, dogs can't do that. A Labrador isn't in its little fucking blanket worrying, will it be playing fetch next week? It isn't. It's constrained, thank God, so then it enjoys, it run after the ball with as much joy at the first time than the 500th time, where a person would go, oh, fucking, I've done this, after 2 or 3. Yeah. So in a sense, we envy the fucking animals because they're happier than us, and we actually are becoming servants. What person picks up your shit? We're picking up dog shit all day. I think that's pretty strange. And then the dogs look embarrassed while they're shitting. It's like they're taking on human quality. They're looking, oh, I'm sorry. Come on. It's fucking crazy. We're dreaming ourselves into everything we come in contact with. Now they go to dog psychiatrists. Fucking, they have neuroses. They pick up from their owners. It's fucking crazy. To see a dog super anxious is so weird. Why would a fucking dog be... You know, fucking what happened to the poor puppy? I don't know, it's crazy, man. So hey, I'm losing audiences. They're all going to eat now, and you know, so hey, I'm hoping I see everyone. It's fun anyway, isn't it? Yeah, it's a nice joy. This isn't going to be your last satsang. Symbolically, it will be, but you'll be coming
I'll
back.
be inspired.
Yes.
I'll be inspired
That's
if I
good.
don't turn out.
That's
But
good.
thank you.
Oh yes.
Thank you. Oh, really, thank you.
All right, so that's that, eh? Do we pass the basket, bro? And I have, for the lucky person, I have 3 books I brought and 3 T-shirts. One I have to wash, which is upstairs because I wore it on the plane. But
That's extra.
there's some.
Extra for that one.
That's
Master.
extra. There's some virgins.
Master
There's
boy.
some virgin shirts there. There's one book on AA that we did, and then there's the 2 non-linear books. I mean, the same, Escape to Everywhere, or From Everywhere, or something.
Is there a box of chocolates going around?
No, that is nuggets.
Oh, nougats.
Yes, they're available, yeah, go ahead. All right, so hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Yes.
Just in case you're wondering, there's a donation box.
Oh,
right
please,
here.
yes.
So, yeah, that's,
It costs to get to Toronto.
Hey,